Welcome all. Glad you could be here. Hope you're going to be ready to learn and play with more new things today. Today we're going to be jumping into the world of C++. And today we're going to be playing with the anatomy of C++, what it is and how to set it up, what all those basic components are. If you're new to C++, this program will be good for you. Let's just jump right in here. When you're looking at a C++ type of program, you've got three basic areas. You've got the areas here at the top here. You've got the header information, you've got your main body, and then down here you might have some function definitions. The main part of your program is going to fit right in this little section here called main programming. There you're going to have your local variables, you're going to have programming components like loops and conditions and calculations, and your results. And then, of course, at the end, you're going to have, if possible, functions that you have actually defined. At the beginning, of course, you're not going to be doing that. However, you should know that when you're going to be using functions, you first at the very top declare a function. Say, hey, this is a function that I want to be doing. I'm going to make this function, as it were. In the middle of the program, inside main, is where you call the function. You're basically saying, hey, yo, function, run. And then at the end is where you actually define the actual components of the function. We're not going to talk about that now. I just wanted to give you a little quick highlight about where functions go typically. Okay? They don't have to go this way. You should realize I'm showing you a basic format here. There are many ways to skin a cat when developing a C++ program, but this is one way you can do it. As I mentioned before, inside the main area, you're going to have variables, you're going to have programming components, and you're going to have results that are going to be showing up. The main section can be very large, but as you get better in programming, you start creating functions and they get peeled off into different locations, and that main can actually become much smaller. It's the controlling program for everything. Here's what a typical file looks like. Actually, that's probably not the best way to do this. It would probably be better to just show you an actual program. So we're going to do that. We're going to come on over here and show you. Here's an actual program inside VS Code. VS Code or Visual Studio, they're similar. They are actually very different in terms of size of things that you do. VS Code is typically for smaller types of programs. I'm running on a Linux system, so Microsoft doesn't like me. They want me to use Windows instead. So instead, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. As I mentioned before, the beginning of your program, you've got this section here, which is going to be your header. And the header is going to be where you set all your major components up before you run your main program. Here's your main program, as you can see here. Now, it's interesting to note here that main begins and ends with braces. You're going to make sure that you have those. You should also know a little bit about this environment. You'll notice there's a lot of green stuff here. Why is it green? Because green is a comment. Anything that begins with a double a double slash at the beginning, it's a comment. You could also have comments with multiple lines that have that slash star. So in here, I'm just typing and saying things, and I can just keep swimming. I can just keep adding stuff. It's still green, okay? You'll note that it's still green because it's noticing it as code, because it's in between the star slash. Just one line, just do slash slash. You should also note this little guy right here. Notice I have a little circle there. It's like, hey, what is that white dot? That tells you that the program needs to be saved. Something has changed. There's some editing that happened and it needs to be saved. If I press Control S to save this puppy, it becomes an X. And the X means, hey, it's done. You don't need to worry about it anymore. Everything is up to date. I'm going to undo that. Look what happened. You'll see my little circle came back and said, hey, something changed. I need to save before I can go and compile. So that's what I did. All right, so those are comments. Here's another comment, line 7. Here are some include files. What's an include file? An include file is a list or group of functions that somebody else made. You don't have to make them because they made them. You know there are good functions inside, so you include that here before you start your program. Oddly enough, if you go look down here at line 19, here's a little function here called cout. That's not something you made. That's not something that's native to C++. Someone made a function. And it's included in one of those include files, and you can then use it. So that's what these include files are. Note that it begins with a pound sign and there's no semicolon at the end. Typically for C++, everything ends with a semicolon. All right, after your include files, you can define a namespace. You don't have to, but typically they begin this way just to make life easier. A namespace is basically a definition of the container that you're going to use to do all of your programming. So it's going to set up all of the components that you would typically use. Standard, of course, is std, standard. And that's what we're going to be using here. You don't have to use standard, you can use other ones, but to make life easier, especially for you newbies, use the standard. I'm going to save this again. I have a little dot up here because I added a space. You need to add more includes, just add them there. Moving on, line 13 here says global declarations, constants, any definitions, anything that you need that you want to declare that's going to be used everywhere in all your functions, you can put them here. After line 15, you may include your function prototypes. This is where you're declaring a function. Hey, I'm going to make this function. If you want to put them there. Inside the rest here is your main program. You'll note down here at line 30, it says function definitions. If you're going to have a definition of a function, remember, you declare it up here, and then you define it down here, and in the middle you call it. Okay, so this is going to be the main stuff for you people who are just starting out. You've got something here called main, and you've got open and close brace. All your program is going to be done inside that. So, for example, we've got something here called cout. Console out, send stuff out to the console, and we're redirecting a function called endLine, and we'll redirect another function called endLine, just moving the line cursor down 2 lines. Then you've got a redirect to add stuff, and I can add anything I want here, just adding content. It's just going to be displayed to the screen. And then I've got another endLine, and you'll note at the very end I have a semicolon. Make sure that you include those semicolons or you're going to get an error, okay? Now, when you're done and taking a look at all this, I take that back. We also have variable declarations. So if you're going to be creating a variable, right, you might have int b, for example, okay? You'll include that there, and look what happened. Look what happened. If you look right here, all of a sudden I have an underline mark here. It's red. It says, hey, there's something wrong. Yeah, there's something wrong because right here at the end of int b, I didn't put a semicolon. I put the semicolon in, and look what happens here. The red line is gone, telling you, hey, it's been fixed. There are no issues. I still have this up here, which means something has changed, and I need to save it if I want it to work. So I'm going to press Control S, and now it's saved. So now I've added this variable. I can add more variables. There are different types. We'll talk about that in another video. Down here, I would do programming logic, not formulas. I would do loops, or conditions, or calculations. I could do all those here. And then at the bottom here of this int main, I have something that says return 0. Everything works out fine, then return 0 to tell the program, hey, everything worked fine. You can return a variety of things when you're using functions. Let's run this. I'm going to click on the little run button over here, and you'll see what pops up. It says your name and lab name. Just the same as here, right? Your name and lab name. I can add other things here if I want to. I can do another cout, and I can do redirect, give it a name here, call it hello mother, period, right? Hello father, okay, period. And that'll work fine. Hey, look what happened. I've got a red mark here. Why do I have a red mark? Because I don't have a semicolon right here where I need a semicolon. So make sure you put in that semicolon at the end of all your lines. Put in the semicolon, the red line now disappears, right? It's not there, and now I can save. Remember, I've got this here that's not saved yet. Now I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to try to run it. So I'm going to run this now. Let me see, where is that? There it is. And now I've got hello mother, hello father. They're both popped up because they're here. Now that's the basic anatomy of a C++ program. You've got this header stuff here at the beginning. You've got the main down here. And then if you have any functions that you need to define, you'll put them down here. That's basically all we have for this, people. I do hope that was helpful. If you do have any questions, you can send a message down below. And other than that, I hope to see you sometime later. Have a nice day.